Welcome to the Interrupt. My guest today is Jonathan Caras. He is the founder of Levana. It's a platform for fully collateralized perpetual swaps. So in today's podcast, we're going to talk about perpetual swaps, understanding what they are and why they're so unique to crypto. We'll also talk about Levana's features and specifically one that I'm interested in, which is insolvency protection. And we'll also talk more broadly about Cosmos DeFi and where Levana sits in that ecosystem. I'm also dying to find out why he thinks the Appchain thesis is dead.
Yeah, to just
Make
start
sure
with,
to hit the like button, hit notification bell, and subscribe to get notified when I go live every week. And remember that none of what we discuss here on the Interrupt is investment advice. And if you enjoy this content, please consider staking with us. We're validating on Evmos, Quicksilver, Juno, Nolus, and Osmosis. Just look for Interrupt in the app. My guest, Jonathan, is coming up next, right here on the Interrupt. Hey, Jonathan.
hey, thank you for having me. I'm Jonathan Caras. I am head of communications at Levana, and I'm excited to be here. And Sebastian, I think what have we've known each other for like 3 years now. I don't even remember,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we.
we've interacted quite a few times. I think I probably met you at like DabCon or something. I feel like that's where we met in Berlin,
Yeah,
and just yeah, we interacted a couple of times. But I actually don't know a whole lot about your background. I know you worked at Starkware for a while. I know you did a lot of stuff in Ethereum. So yeah, curious to maybe dive a little bit deeper into how you became head of comms at Levana.
sure. So, well, I mean, my background is in computer engineering. I'm from DC originally. I've been living in the Middle East for about 22 years. And I built a communications company out here, which got 26 million subscribers, that I sold in 2015, and then in 2018, I built a company that we exited to Snapchat. It was called Screenshop. It used computer vision to turn your feed into a shopping cart and through, I mean, what now would be called AI, but that wasn't the term then. It was machine learning. And then I started getting into Bitcoin in 2016, right as the run from like the 900s up to like 2400s, 2400. And in after the blow off top of 2017, I put together a crypto hedge fund called Lions Chain Capital, and we did a lot of early stage investments. Got to travel all over the world, meet great guys like you, and we just started talking to founders. And my previous experience as being a builder in mostly mobile, but in communications and social networking and other things like that, were showed that there was a lot of skills that came from Web 2 that were lacking in the Web 3 world. And so I've always been curious and really fascinated by teams that try and focus on sensible business models or economic designs, building things that are designed for a mass audience, building things that are fun and not necessarily just finance. And that's kind of where I've been focused. I led business development for almost 2 years at Starkware, like you mentioned. I got to speak to about 340 different DApp development teams and companies and wallets and everything. We closed DYDX and Argent, So Rare, Gods Unchained, Immutable, um, the Diversify, and a bunch of other cool projects while I was there in the DeFi and NFT space. And I joined Delphi Labs when they kicked off in 2019 to make an incubator for a number of different projects on Terra. And that was the origin story of Levana. And Levana is a perpetual swap, currently deployed in the Cosmos ecosystem. We have had over we launched it about 57 days ago, and we've had about $82 million of trading volume. So we're 400 days into the bear market as a community. So to launch and to see those numbers shows that what we have built, which is a very unique perps product, has really attracted the attention of the Cosmos community and beyond.
Cool. Yeah, man, I didn't realize that you had done something, that you've been around for so long. Um, you were telling me that you were saying that your interest was in products that are built for users. What do you think are the best attempts or successes in crypto to build products that users will actually want to use and that aren't just finance?
Well, I think stablecoins are the killer use case just in general. It's borderless payments is a massive industry, and it's a huge headache. Being an expatriate, I left America over 20 years ago. I've always kind of been either unbanked or half banked within America, and just being having been a traveler, having spent time in Europe and Asia, it's really non-trivial to move money. And you see a lot of people that a double digit percentage of their weekly income is just spent by money changers and transmitters. So that's an obvious huge use case. um, Besides for just bill pay and money transfer, I'm very bullish on self-sovereign, interoperable, um, uh, we use the term non-fungible. It's really an awful term because it doesn't mean anything to anybody outside of the industry. It's like it just goes to show like how far we have to grow. But I think that if looking at both So Rare and Gods Unchained, which are both projects that I got to work very closely with, you can see that they took an itch that existed outside of the crypto space, whether it was fantasy football, or whether it was things like Magic the Gathering, or those types, even Pokemon, and then really going to a 0 to 1 with the self sovereignty aspect, and allowing for third parties to be able to build interoperable software on top of it, is really impressive. And it comes down to what I think is the core um, innovation in the space, which is kind of a merger of two transitions that we have seen over the last probably 50 years of software development, which is the migration of software as a product to software as a service. Like, we don't buy Photoshop anymore. When I was a kid, we bought Photoshop. We had Photoshop 7. We bought.
No, we cracked Photoshop when we were kids.
Okay, yeah, that's, you want to say that
Stop
was
lying.
coding? Yeah. But anyways, it was a product. There was no monthly. I mean, who's going to pay $600 like in like 1998? Come on. Um, but I
Especially at 14.
yeah, and and you're like a kid. Um, but anyways, yeah, those were the LimeWire days. Um, so there's this migration of software being a product to software being a service, which means that I'm expected to pay either the more that I use or on a monthly basis. And then there's also another phenomena, which is that open source creates infectious standards that then allow for interoperable, um, uh, Legos. We built the video call that we're on today, the codecs that's compressing our video and our audio were not made by, what is this, StreamYard.com? No, these are industry standards that anybody can build a company on top of. My previous video streaming company was based on Slate permutations to HTTP live streaming. And so it's the fact that we've got um, a a homogenization of technologies through primarily through open source is what makes the operating systems to the computers that we're running feasible, which allows for software developers to be able to make a fart app and then make $1 million off of that. And there's always kind of been this problem within these two worlds colliding of software as a service that you pay for on a per use basis, and open source, which doesn't really have a good business model, but has a good virality model. And blockchain is really the meeting of these two behemoths, where we can have defensibility through sovereign ownership of digital assets through tokenization. We can have distributed governance and co-ops. We can do it all open sourced, and we can collect revenue that's defensible and can compensate the actual movers and shakers behind the protocols themselves. So this as just a general economic model applied to the entertainment industry is incredibly interesting, because it allows for we joke saying like the Uber of X, the Uber of dog washers, the Uber of whatever, but really there's you can make the Uber of GPU, the Uber of storage, the Uber of Netflix, the Uber of whatever. And um, and and blockchain and open source interoperable tokenization methodologies enable a really compelling and optimistic future, which I think is the in the complete opposite direction of a lot of the futurisms that we have today, with like central bank digital currency, and the government being able to tell you how many beers you're allowed to drink with your salary, and things like that.
Yeah, this is really, really fascinating. And I think something here to touch on is this idea of like a blockchain as a business. It's sort of, you could think of blockchains as a way to extend um, extend the ownership of a business to a collective, right? To a collective of people that don't necessarily know each other, right? So you're kind of but opening the ability for a business to exist as a non-singular thing. And so I'd like to maybe ask you then why, isn't that sort of the idea of an app chain, where you have a chain that is itself a self-contained business? And why do you think the app chain thesis has failed?
Well, I think it conflicts too much with the the in what enables entrepreneurship is where you can where the cost of failure it diminishes over time, and then that enables rapid iteration of whatever it is that you're building. And the overhead um, of infrastructure is the complete antithesis. It's the complete opposite um, of being able to stay hyper focused, address consumer facing problem, and then iterate on that until you achieve product market fit, and then focus on scaling. And if you look what the Appchain thesis requires is um, and I will facetiously use the word bribe, where more accurately the word is incentivize. But I think I get the point across, more eloquently if I say bribe. You have to bribe validators to play nice. You have to bribe wallets. You have to bribe, bridges. You have to bribe block explorers in order to play the app chain game. There's a whole Cosmos mafia that you need to bribe in order to get into there. Now, obviously, it's not like a bunch of people in like slick hats and in moonshine rigs. I say the word mafia lovingly, but there's a massive amount of overhead that is required in order to be an app chain. and and in many cases it's about who you know, more, and how much money that you can pay, more than anything else. Whereas if you look at what makes every successful startup, is I can, I don't need to manage my own servers. I can just get a grant on AWS. And it's like, well, you can snap your fingers and AWS will give you a grant for 25K. It's like, they're like these, they're passing them out like tissues. Um, you you want any basic infrastructure like logins. I can just use Google single sign on. I can use Facebook sign on if people still use that. I'm not sure if they do, but once upon a time that was very popular. So what's always attracted me to Cosmos is the is also very similar to just the high level concept of gradual decentralization, is that with Cosmos, as long as there are permissionless, um, well well funded with liquidity and bridge provided services like what Juno I think once was, in its glory days, then there's places within Cosmos where people can deploy code, can quickly iterate. They don't need to worry about how am I going to incentivize, $5 million of liquidity to come over. Like Levana right now has we've been live for 2 months. We have $2.1 million of TVL, of total value locked. We've done over $80 million of trading volume. If we had launched on our own chain, I think we would be at, maybe if we were lucky, 1/10 on both of those numbers. Because instead of focusing on providing a good product for an end user, we would have had to focus on, well, how are we going to bribe the bridgers? How are we going to bribe the liquidity providers? How are we going to bribe the wallet operators to list us? And that would have taken away from actually being able to provide a quality product to a growing audience.
But I mean, from what I know of you, I've had a couple conversations, and what my sense is that you're a guy who likes the sovereignty and doesn't want let's say the government getting in your business and this sort of thing. Don't you think that the idea of sovereignty as an app chain makes sense from that perspective, where when you're running your own app chain, well, you don't have to worry about sort of being at the whims of any technological changes, economic changes to an underlying security provider. Does that aspect of the Appchain thesis not resonate with you, and maybe make sense for certain categories of applications? I mean, like my idea, like sort of app chains, is that they exist on one end of the spectrum of the way that one can deploy applications, and just like not every company goes out and builds their own data center infrastructure. Not every application is well suited to be an app chain. That's reserved for certain types of applications. And I also think that it is going to be increasingly hard to build application chains for the reasons you mentioned. But there may be a graduation path where you start as a smart contract, you go to being as a settlement rollup, or maybe as a sovereign rollup, and then you eventually graduate to being an app chain. And sort of give one example of an application that went from being a smart contract on Ethereum to being built on Startware, and now is building their own app chain, and sort of goes through the paces of growth to get to the point where they have sufficient amount of money, power, influence users to man their own chain and sort of be in full control of their own destiny. Is that something that makes sense to you? Or do you think like application chains just across the board don't make any sense?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. The it would make no sense for for WhatsApp to be run on AWS. It wouldn't make, from a sovereignty perspective, from a security perspective, from a cost savings perspective. WhatsApp needs its own data center. So, and Facebook invested in building its own data center, which I probably predates WhatsApp, but but that's the eventual growth. And I think that DYDX is a perfect example of I think also the beauty of what we have in Cosmos, because I do believe that Cosmos is the most technically advanced blockchain solution, especially if you want to build your own chain. I think that there's, people at our heels that are that our gap and advantage, technical advantage, is much smaller than it was a year ago. With things like Eigenlayer, with ZK VM roll up, with Base, basically spinning out their own optimism chain, with Avalanche. What do they call them? Zones. Forget what the Avalanche
Subnets.
nomenclature. Subnets. That's it. Yeah,
Subnets.
the subnets.
Cosmos is zones.
Yeah. Oh, they don't use zones. I thought they also called them zones. I probably just have been using zones because I've been too long in the Cosmos ecosystem. And then even Polkadot calls them substrates.
Yeah,
so,
I believe.
Is it substrates?
Or no, parachains.
So substrate is the thing that's connected through a parachain. Whatever.
Substrate is the framework. Substrate is kind of like the Cosmos
SDK.
SDK equivalent in Polkadot.
Exactly. So the what I love about the idea that you can start by being an application on an existing on an existing app chain in a predefined zone, and then be able to take that same code and then spin up your own chain with either mesh security or various other subsidized security implementations, and then eventually just be completely self-sovereign, and all of that without having to rewrite your stack. What DYDX had to do is they first built on Ethereum and Solidity. Then they were built on StarkX using Cairo, and then now they're being rebuilt on Cosmos, and I'm not sure what language that they're built on, but I'm sure it's not Cairo. So it's
I believe it's Cosmwasm.
Is it? It's not. It's not built actually as a module. I don't know. I have no idea.
I think they're doing both. I think there's modules and there's probably some amount of Cosmos.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Although I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all right. Nobody's so I think that the just like how what I mentioned earlier in the call is that there's a healthy path to eventual decentralization, because every project, even Bitcoin, starts with Satoshi and Hal being the two node operators, and then it becomes more open and more open until Satoshi doesn't even exist anymore. And then there's this gradual, where you have an application, it doesn't have a token, then you launch a token. The token is primarily owned by VCs and team, and then lockups, distribution, farming, and then it becomes broader and broader until it's really owned by the community, and the keys are really passed over, and then you have a decentralized governance. So what Cosmos allows is decentralized self-sovereignty and infrastructure to be a part of that evolution and narrative. And I think that that's what's most attractive.
Cool. Well, let's talk to Levana a little bit. And I just realized as we were having this conversation that Levana is not an app chain. It's deployed on Osmosis, I believe.
Yep, we're deployed on Osmosis.
Yeah, I think I knew that back in my head, but then had a doubt. Why did you choose to deploy on Osmosis, and what's the process of deploying on Osmosis? I guess it must be all awesome. Yeah, explain how that works.
Well, first you have to talk to the Osmosis team, and you have to get them to be excited about it, because
you have to bribe them.
What's that?
Do you have to bribe them?
With stickers and cookies, and hugs and kisses. No, they're pleasure to work with. it needs to be synergistic, and it needs to be very high quality. So again, it's not, if we were a scrappy startup, that hadn't built, multiple previous, leverage trading products, that we probably would not have been relevant for us to be deployed on Osmosis, because the bar is very high. And then the then you have to write a Commonwealth proposal, and then on the Commonwealth proposal, you have to argue with a bunch of anonymous people online about a bunch of stuff, and then if that goes well, then you deploy on chain. And we had I think it was about 60% said yes, 20% abstained, and 20% said no. So, we kind of just like slid through, like by what's the phrase? By the skin of your teeth? I don't know what it was. I don't think your teeth have skin, so it's probably not it. But it was less, there were definitely people that were not interested in having Levana on the chain. And we appreciated that. And then we were given a key, like a whitelisted key that allowed us to be able to deploy contracts. And then that key is owned by multi-sig holders. And then we've deployed since then the initial contracts, I believe 5 or 6 markets, and some like keeper bots and oracles, and and we've been up and running now for almost 2 months.
Cool. So, like, I see this I saw this on Levana, like this concept of real yield, and I know Sommelier also uses this kind of this nomenclature. What does that mean? What is real yield versus non-real yield, or whatever other kind of yield people are getting?
There is a general concept in crypto that you can just print money out of thin air. That there's a concept where, let's say that I print 1 million tokens. Let's say I print 100 million tokens, and then you say, "Oh, that token looks nice. Can I buy one off of you?" And I say, "Sure, I'll sell it to you for $1." So now, I have just sitting in a wallet whatever 100 million minus 1 is. So 99 million, 9, there's a lot of nines in there. So now my market cap is $100 million out of thin air. Like, my market cap went from 0 to $100 million because there was a value transfer of $1. And I could have even lent you that dollar to buy it off of me. So it's there is, there's a lot of fuzzy math when it comes to valuations in crypto, and there's ways that you can incentivize people. Now that you have bought one of my tokens for $1, now I can go, and anybody else who somebody wants to lend me $100,000, I can say, fine, I will give you 100% APR on that. Now, how do I give them 100% APR? I take 100,000 of these tokens that I minted that you bought one of them for $1, and then I slowly trickle them out. And as long as I don't trickle them out too much, and as long as there's more hype demand for the token, then there's roughly the same buying pressure and selling pressure, then my hyperinflation can provide a yield which can incentivize people to provide liquidity and to perform actions such as trade or wash trade, or any other type of action that I might want to incentivize. Now, that is called not real yield, or that's just called yield. And so what real yield is intending to articulate that what you are being paid is not, you're only being paid by capital that entered into the system. It's a closed loop, and it's zero sum. So you can only be paid if you're being paid $1, that means that somebody else paid $1. And if there's any protocol fees on top of that, let's say that there's a 10% protocol fee. So then if you're being paid $1, that means that someone was charged $1.10. So Levana, and I'll pull up the numbers today, is, if we go on Osmosis, so single-sided deposits of Atom are paying 42.43% APR. And it's paid in Atom. And where does that money come from? It comes from traders that are paying fees to leverage trade. So Levana is the Levana smart contracts are taking that capital that traders are paying and giving it directly to the liquidity providers. And Bitcoin is 43.82%, Osmo is 29.4%, Ethereum is 22.89%. So we're seeing double-digit real yields, which is by far the highest real yield that you can find, not just in Cosmos, but pretty much in any crypto space today. And so we're very proud to achieve that. We achieved it with lots of hard work in terms of optimization of math. And we achieved it probably by being generous, that we're taking the fees that people are paying to use the product, and it's an excellent product. The UI for Levana is just really easy to use. The APIs that allow you to plug into your existing trading systems, are very robust and well-defined. And the securities of our well-funded model attract large traders that have been apprehensive to date to trade at these large volumes on competing apps within the Cosmos ecosystem.
So let's dive into this idea of Perpetual. So in all honesty, like, I'm not a crypto trader. I'm a very sort of conservative user of DeFi. I never had an FTX account. I've never used perpetuals. I do very little derivatives trading. I borrow and lend and do a little bit of that, but very very conservative user of DeFi. What is perpetual, and why is it unique to crypto? Walk us through what a perpetual is and how it's used by traders.
Sure. So a perpetual is a type of contract which, unlike an option contract, doesn't have a predefined expiration date. That's in a nutshell, is that I want to have usually leverage exposure, either long or short, and Levana provides 30x leverage, long and short, on all your favorite crypto assets. And the essentially you're taking a leverage position and then you're paying an ongoing fee. And there's a few different ways in order to be able to generate the leverage. It could be generated synthetically, where the underlying assets are stable coins, and you're essentially just like paper trading, almost like a bucket shop, longs versus shorts, and there's some type of funding rate to try and balance the longs and the shorts against each other, so that the exchange itself minimizes its risks around insolvency. And then there's also notional backed crypto markets. Levana supports both. What's currently deployed on Osmosis are the latter, which I'll explain in a second, which are crypto-backed assets. And with crypto-backed assets, you actually are borrowing the tokens that are generating your leverage. So, for example, forget about any complex dApp. If you had one Bitcoin and you wanted 10x exposure, you could go and you could borrow another 9 Bitcoin. Then Bitcoin goes on a run. It's now worth 100K. You pay back your loan, and then now you benefited from the run up that you had with those extra Bitcoin. Now, because you were borrowing, you're going to pay a continuous fee. But depending upon the contract, it could be a perpetual loan, thus a perpetual contract. meaning you can borrow those extra 9 Bitcoin for as long as you're willing to pay for them. And then the market will determine utilization ratios. What is the reasonable rate to charge you, and that the contract is flexible. And the reason why it's so crypto native is that it's perfectly designed for smart contracts. I know, like, for example, in the Levana methodology, which is called the well-funded perps, where you actually are borrowing those other 9 Bitcoin and they're just, in a smart contract that's attributed to your account. All of the trustful actions of, the current, like, Wall Street options market of, do they actually have the underlying assets? Are they going to go insolvent? Like, I could sell you a contract that gives you the rights to purchase 100 Bitcoin at $50,000 a year from now, and I could sell that to you. This is done all the time on Wall Street. But now you have to trust me that I actually have those 100 Bitcoin. Or if I don't have those 100 Bitcoin, I've got the cash in some type of an insurance fund that if you're right and your option closes in the money a year from now, and you want to exercise that option, then I'm not going to just go bankrupt and be like, sorry, man, I don't have the money to buy, Bitcoin's at 100,000. You've got the rights to buy 100 of them. So that's a boatload of money. What's that, $10 million? I don't have $10 million. Even though you paid for this option a lot of money, I just can't redeem it. I'm just going to go bankrupt. So what we saw, in markets within CeFi, centralized, crypto finance, is that when there were the legs down of the last year in this bear market, many of them went bankrupt because they didn't have the insurance to be able to cover insolvency. And then also we saw within DeFi, many leverage trading platforms just became insolvent because they were pegging everything to crypto assets while they collateralized them with stable coins. The stable coins either didn't keep their peg, or just the markets, the shorts won so much money that the liquidations of the longs couldn't pay for it. And so then we end up with these situations where you get a bank run. And because it's on chain, it's even worse because everybody can see when a crypto platform becomes insolvent. I'm sure you follow Peck Shield, or you follow some of these other accounts which are like, hey, I don't want to name names because that's kind of mean, but hey, X, Y, and Z protocol, you better check your contract because it looks like all your, half your funds were drained. Everybody can see it. So then everybody now rushes to pull all their capital out, and it just exacerbates the problem to the point where these platforms just completely go insolvent. So Levana was designed to prevent that by taking a well-funded model that, instead of having a global, either off-chain or IOU insurance fund, the totality of the debt that could be owed to each position is actually locked in each position. And we give discounts to traders by adopting low take profits. So the total exposure on a per position basis is as low as possible.
I want to come back to this well-funded model idea in a second, but first I want to ask like a really question about perpetuals that sort of came to mind here, and you're probably going to tell me, well, this is stupid because like this obviously is preventing it. But if the perpetual swap basically allows you to borrow an asset indefinitely in time, why wouldn't a user just say, okay, borrow 5 Bitcoin at current price, and I'm just going to keep that Bitcoin perpetually until such time as like Bitcoin is worth X amount, right, until the next bull cycle, and just pay back the loan then? Why is that not possible? Like, what prevents people from doing that, or
well,
what makes that economically unviable? Because it just seems like that would be the thing to do.
for sure. That's a great question. So it's about the fees. So first of all, there's a liquidation margin, meaning that if your collateral to your loan drops below a certain point, then you'll be liquidated. It could drop below a certain point because of two things: either the collateral, which is in this case a Bitcoin, loses its value because the price of Bitcoin goes down, or the fees that you're paying, which are always chipping away at your collateral, will liquidate you. So that means you've got to just you would just have to, if you could hold it, you know, um, uh, impertuity. There's a lot of words that I know in English that I don't know.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, perpetuity. I don't know how to say out loud. But so so you could hold it forever, but if going back, right now, Levana is paying to liquidity providers who are providing that liquidity. They're paying, 43.82% APR. Where does that come from? That's because there's people that are being charged that. So if you just sat on that position for 3 months, 6 months, you might end up losing half of your, you'll lose a huge chunk of your principal. And you might get liquidated because your principal didn't meet the minimum liquidation threshold. So most perps positions are open for less than a week because of the fees.
Okay, interesting. So actually, traders are not entering very long with perps. They're entering very short positions, so they're making perhaps like very concentrated leverage trades on
Inflection
very
points in the
sort of
market. Yep.
inflection points in the market. Okay, thanks for offering that bit of precision. Interesting. So who are the users of Lana? I mean, are these just like degens, or are you targeting more specific or more sophisticated DeFi users, or is it more like institutions? Like who are you seeing using the platform?
Well, it is so there's definitely the degen play that's like YOLO, 30x leverage, Bitcoin Atom long, or the guys that are like Osmo stinks. I hate that token. I'm going to short it, to the dirt. And so they'll try and swing trade with leverage in order to be more capital efficient. Also, the nice thing with leverage is that your upside is based solely on your conviction, and your downside is based on your capital allocation. So I could the risk reward ratio in perpetual trading is much better than in spot trading, because where else could it be that I deploy $100, my total exposure of loss is $100, but I take this 30x leverage position that could earn me $5,000 in like a week or a month. So your upside is $5,000. Your downside is you lose $100. So there's nothing else that can do that besides leverage, and that's what makes it popular for the
Are
degens.
strategies like sort of are people like implementing strategies where they're I think the right term for this is delta neutral. They're implementing like a delta neutral strategy where they're longing and shorting and like with some degree of proportionality, so that they're sort of hedging those positions either way so that they don't lose that initial collateral. Like this is total like trading newbie here, asking you some very basic questions probably that are a bit lame, but yeah.
Well, you mix two concepts, so I'll unpack them. One is how do you protect your collateral from just like getting wiped out? So you do that with a stop loss. So in Levana, users are incentivized to create a take profit, which is the position will automatically close once you reach a certain amount of profit, and a stop loss, which is the position will automatically close once you've lost a certain amount of money. And so this way, Levana is actually a very low risk, or it's, there's always risks with leverage trading, but in terms of comparing it to many of the other leverage trading platforms, Levana is very vanilla, low risk, designed for your grandmother. She could say like, look, if I don't need to make that $5,000. I put in $100. If I get a double, close. If I lost $10, close. And so now you've got that asymmetric reward just kind of set. And you can run that as many times as you want. And just, there's a numbers game there that, that people tend to be right over time. And so if you can make sure that when you are wrong, there's a very small consequence, but when you're right, there's a big reward, then, you don't need to be a degen. So I would call that's kind of like the mama bear. If the papa bear is, is just out there, max leverage, max exposure, don't need no stop losses. That's the papa bear. The mama bear is setting those boundaries so that she's only losing a little bit if she's wrong and she's gaining a lot if she's right. And then the baby bear is actually delta neutral, which is what you explained. Now, because there's something called a funding rate where one side will be paid fees, a trader between traders, whatever's the popular side, whether it's long or short, the popular side pays a fee to the not popular side. So they're actually paying a fee to two participants. They're paying a fee to the not popular side of the trade, and they're paying a fee to the liquidity providers who they're borrowing from. So I'll tell you what the numbers are right now, so we don't have to, philosophize. So on Atom, longs are popular, shorts are not popular. Shorts are getting paid 76.2% APR to hold the short on Atom. I'll pull up Bitcoin on Levana today. These are real numbers. If you are short on Levana, on Bitcoin, you get paid 71.82%. So if you think the market is going down, you could actually make a nice bit of money. And then it's not like the fees, like I said before, where you actually get paid to hold this type of a short position. And then, just to finish it off, like, let's talk about ETH. Wow, ETH's people are very bullish on Levana for ETH. Shorts are getting paid, get this, 273.79% to take a short on Levana. So now you could either just take it blind as like, I want to take the short, or you could take it market neutral. So like, let's say, for example, that
So that means people on Levana think that Ethereum is going down.
No, because the shorts are getting paid. So that means the shorts are the less popular side.
Okay, right. Okay. So people are bullish. The shorts are getting paid. Okay, yeah.
The less popular side gets paid, the more popular side pays. It's like taking, it's like I was raised that the girl doesn't pay when you take her out to dinner. That's because I'm the less popular
You're
one.
well raised, sir.
There's plenty of guys that have that are that don't have a big bushy beard and are not, that there's plenty of guys that she could take out to dinner tonight. So I'm the, she's the less popular side. I'm the more popular side. I have to pay. So what people do is you can get paid to go long Atom by buying liquid staked derivatives of Atom, and you get paid 20% APR. So imagine that you bought $100 of liquid stake of ST Atom, staked Atom. Now imagine that you took another $20 and you brought it to Levana and you shorted Atom with 5x leverage. So now on Levana, your short has exposure of $100 worth of Atom. Now you bought the liquid stake derivative of $100 of Atom. So you have $100 long exposure and $100 short exposure. So now you're market neutral. You're delta neutral. And you're getting paid 20% for your $100, 20% APR for your $100 long. And you're getting paid 70 whatever percent to short. So you don't have exposure to the price of Atom, but you're getting paid a boatload of APR. and that is called cash and carry or basis trading, and that I would say is about a third of the active traders on Levana are performing strategies. Now, obviously, I'm kind of romanticizing it. You need to make sure you don't get liquidated. You need to make sure that the funding rate doesn't flip, and now you're actually paying a boatload instead of getting paid a boatload. Um, so a lot of people write in TypeScript. We have APIs for TypeScript, and we have a lot of sample code there. So people, I've met guys that have been making bank over the last 2 months on Levana, and ChatGPT wrote the whole trading thing for them. Like they just
Incredible.
deployed it. It's amazing. It's amazing the world that we live in. Um, and and we publish via API like historical funding rates, so people can really they can catch it if it moves past a certain threshold with a certain velocity. There's all kinds of things there, but I think like first, for people to just play around with it, I've opened just manually. I don't have time to build all that stuff, but to just even manually, you know, try and do some basis trading or try and catch a swing. I put $10 on an Osmos short, and I've made a couple bucks off of it so far. When the market was very bullish, I'm still getting paid. What are we paying on Osmo? 44% to go APR to go short on Osmo. Um, so there's a lot of different strategies. It's not only for degens, it's also for hedging. Like let's say you were staking into Atom and you wanted to go into unbonding, which is like I think a 14-day process. So for those 14 days, you might want to lock in a price. So you just short Atom. And so again, you've got this long, which is illiquid and it's stuck. So you partner it with a short that's liquid and not stuck, and you take the edge off.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, these are really interesting sort of use case strategies, especially this unbonding period one. So what does it mean that Levana is well funded?
So it means that we don't use a centralized insurance pool, that we actually, every position carries with it the exact size in, it's not really insurance, but for sake of analogy, carries with it um, borrowed fees from borrowed assets from liquidity providers, which represents the total exposure that the platform has to the maximum gains of their position. So it's almost like every position opens with its own micro insurance fund. So there never will be a bank run. It will never be that the insurance fund can only, safely provide bailouts for 10% of the users and first come, first serve. You could come back to Levana.
Does this have to do with the fact that Levana has LPs, like liquidity providers, whereas other perp trading platforms don't?
So a lot of perps trading platforms have like market makers, like DYDX has market makers, and sort of a few others. So yes, it is. It is possible for us to be well funded, because we create a well funded position for each trader using the liquidity provider's capital, and they're paid for that. And not only that, the LPs, most traders are bad traders. Um, and so the LPs actually get a bonus when traders lose as well.
Okay, so LPs come into these pools. I mean, this is like similar to an AMM, right? Where you
Yes, but
have
it's
different
not a
pools.
double-sided AMM. With the double-sided AMM, you get impermanent loss. So this is single-sided staking.
Yeah.
So you just deposit Bitcoin, you
Okay.
just deposit ETH, you just deposit Atom.
Okay, so I'm looking at the liquidity pool. So there's Atom USD, BTC USD, Osmo USD, Say USD, and Axelar, yeah, ETH. In a regular, yeah, if I was just depositing here on any AMM, I'd say, okay, like these very uncorrelated assets are subject to high impermanent loss if there was a price swing. But here, for instance, I see like for Atom USD, the LP supply for Atom is like 378,000 or 384,000, and for US, or no, sorry, that's
It's broken up into
yeah,
bonded liquidity pools and not bonded liquidity pools. Bonded
right. Okay.
liquidity pools,
How does it work that then those pools are not are not equal, right, in Atom and USD
because it's just single
supply?
sided. It's the terminology of Atom over USD is that it's Atom priced according to USD, meaning that traders are essentially making a bet that the price will go up and down according to the USD value, as opposed to we could launch markets of Atom ETH, Atom Bitcoin, Atom whatever, but the underlying asset that's in the liquidity pools is only Atom. It's a single
Right.
it's a single asset liquidity pool, which makes it much more capital efficient.
Got it. And so, in perspective, there's like two ways you can use Levana, or at least I see. Like, one is you could be trading, you could be making longs and shorts, and the other way is that you can be providing liquidity into these pools. And so, this is a much more conservative way to be leveraging Levana to make money. Is you just like put them in these pools, and you're making, say, 42% if it's bonded, or 30% if it's unbonded. Does that make sense?
Exactly. If you have a lower risk profile, the single-sided staking probably makes more sense for you. If you have a higher risk profile and you have some sense as to which way the market is going, then then leverage trading is probably for you. And if you're a more sophisticated trader, and you've got some, little AI buddy or some other triggers, then the basis trading, which is also delta neutral. That's probably the most lucrative way to use the platform, but it's more complicated. We do intend to build out vaults that will just do a lot of these fancy footwork for you.
You could also, couldn't you? I mean, one strategy could also be to deposit Atom, bond it, benefit from that 40% APR on the Atom, and then take a short position on Atom in
Yep.
case, so protect you if the price goes down.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what a lot of people are doing that are using the platform is that, or what you can also do is you could you could go to a money market, deposit USDC, borrow Atom, deposit it, and you might pay 3-4% or whatever it is for that. And then I don't know actually what the going rate is to borrow Atom, so I just made that number up. But whatever it is, let's say it was 20% to borrow Atom. So you borrowed Atom from your USDC, and then you went deposited into Levana, and then got 40%. So you're making 20% profit, and you have no price exposure to the price of Atom.
Yeah, I mean, you could get liquidated on that money market if the price of Atom drops significantly.
For sure,
I mean,
you've
that's
got to
like the
manage.
kind of looking the
That's the
opposite.
devil. That's always the devil's in the details. You have to manage against your
Yeah,
liquidations.
yeah. Okay, I'm learning a lot here about like trading. It makes me want to go do some of this stuff,
Yeah, it's a lot of
with a
fun.
little bit more intense.
It is worth
Yeah.
noting, we do block Americans. Leverage trading is not permissible in America. So, if you're American, you should move to a different country. And France is lovely. Portugal is amazing. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is the tax, right? I mean, at least in France.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, the tax is pretty high, but Portugal has a
But
great
beers and
tax.
wine, it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, Portugal is great. I mean, the wine's not as good, but
I'm sure
it's
you
good
can
for
get
other reasons.
French wine you
You
know,
can. Yes,
in
you can,
Portugal.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I want to talk a bit about some other things I saw on your docs. What is this insolvency protection? So it's the insolvency protection is what you describe, right? Whereas because it's well funded, everything is protected against insolvency, so that the platform as a whole is able to pay out when there are
Many
like
open
huge
positions. Now, the downside to
variations.
that is that if a million people that there's only a certain number of positions that we can take on at any time, because trying to open a position will fail if the position can't be well funded.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, mm, like I've seen this also on other perps. What's this concept of a mask price?
What
So I'm just asking like random questions here about perpetuals. But yeah, there's
the
this idea of a mask price.
a mask price?
Yeah.
Mask price? We don't use that terminology. Um,
I saw
there's
this paper.
there's prediction.
Or mark price,
Yeah,
maybe. Oh,
mark
sorry, it's a
price.
mark price.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a mark price is when you have an internal price to the market. It's a market price. It's short. So it could be that in the real world, let's say Adam is trading at $6, $6.50, but on this particular exchange, it's trading 10% higher or lower. So with leverage trading, many platforms have a mark price where the longs and the shorts will pull the mark price into one direction or the other, and then that's the price that it's possible to enter a new position. Now the problem with that is that imagine you know, imagine a whale opens a long position that brings the mark price up 40%. And then the and then a bunch of other people fast follow, and then that whale closes their position. It's going to snap the mark price down by 10-15%, which could liquidate all the new positions that came in afterwards. Now, when they get liquidated, that continues to push the mark price down. So what you end up with is something called cascading liquidations. And many perpetual platforms have suffered from cascading liquidations. Levana was built to prevent cascading liquidations by removing the mark price and only having an index price, which is the real price powered by oracles, and we use multiple different oracles, and to prevent certain exchange or DEX manipulation. And we have and then we have something called it's an artificial slippage, or like a delta neutrality fee, to prevent whale manipulation, to try and eat up open interest or change funding rates in one direction or another. But that might be outside of the scope of complexity for what we want to cover in this call.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, look, taking a step back here a little bit, I mean, you guys just launched recently. There's been, I think, like quite a bit of interest for this platform. I've heard like lots of people tell me about it. And, like I asked on
It's the
Twitter who should come on
fastest
the
growing,
show.
fastest growing Cosmos product probably in the last year and a half.
So, what's the future here? Like, what are you guys working on? Post launch that is super innovative that people might want to use.
So we actually just posted a roadmap that which I'll talk a little bit about here. So we're going to add support for liquid stake derivatives. So you'll be able to leverage trade your staked ETH, your staked Atom. This way, you're not competing. You're not having to give up those like risk-free rates or those low risk rates while you're trading with your assets or you're LPing with your assets. We're going to add support for MetaMask initially through Injective and then through MetaMask Snaps on Osmosis. We are going to add synthetic markets where you'll be able to open and close positions with stablecoins right now, which is important for being able to cross margin, which is very important for capital efficiency. Right now, if you want to take a long position on Bitcoin, you need to deposit Bitcoin. If you want to take a long position on ETH, you need to deposit ETH. So your deposit on ETH can't be used to pay debt or to adjust your position on Bitcoin. So if we're opening and closing markets with just stable coins, so then it allows for cross margin and allows for synthetic assets. So that'll be on the road. That's on our roadmap. Better P&L planning for traders. So when you set a take profit, when you set a stop loss, you're going to be able to see exactly, oh, I now have this, if the market goes against me, I'm going to lose, $7. If the market goes in my favor, I'm going to gain $300. So you'll be able to see that before you click, to open an order. We've got we're going to incorporate better bridging of Ethereum assets because we are a Cosmos app, but most of the fun is happening on Ethereum. So we'll be just integrating better with Ethereum. We're integrating more wallets. We just added support for OKX wallet. A Fin wallet. I mentioned MetaMask before. We'll have notifications. So you'll be able to get a notification on Telegram or Discord or email if a limit order or a take profit or a stop loss was hit. You'll also be able to follow trade your favorite traders, through a leaderboard and subscribe to them. Like, oh, this guy that's just made like $4,000 trading last month, he just opened a new position. So you'll get a notification off of that. We've got gas fee simplification. A lot of people that come from Ethereum, they don't have, all these, osmosis zone gas tokens. So, we want to be able to just, hide any of the fees. You want to pay fees in ETH? Fine, we'll let you pay fees in ETH. So that's going to be coming hopefully next week. That'll be live. And then, a bunch of other stuff, but those are some of the main things. Those are the tasks that are currently ticketed and engineers are working on.
Someone asked on Twitter, when can we leverage any asset?
Yes. So Levana is an acronym for leverage any asset. And the goal of Levana is to be completely permissionless, is to make it just like on Uniswap, anybody can make a new market. So Levana's goal is to make it that anybody can make a new leverage market. Now there's a lot of tweaking that goes into launching each new market on Levana, and we're still learning about the safety precautions and making sure that things work the way that they should. So I think it's probably going to take us somewhere between 1 to 2 years where it can just be completely permissionless and anybody can just make any kind of new altcoin or whatever leverage market for it. But that's ultimately the goal.
Is there a Levana token or like some sort of
There's not currently a token. We are going to do a backdated airdrop. So we had a GameFi on Terra with a very popular NFT collection. So those users of previous Levana products, they will be entitled to an airdrop, and then the traders that are trading with our current product will also be entitled to an airdrop. So we haven't we haven't published the details of what the rewards are for current traders, but it's fairly common that you want to incentivize traders to come on and trade, and then they'll be getting an airdrop based on their trading volume.
Cool. Any final thoughts or places you want to point people to other than go check it out?
Just when you see red candle days like what we see today, don't be sad. Just be sad you weren't shorting. So then come short on Levana Perps. It's the website is trade.levana.finance.
Cool. Well, Jonathan, thanks for coming on. Yeah, you really taught me a lot today about perpetuals. I hope other people learn things too. If there's any other noob like me, glad you could come on and dig deep here.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.